Bitcoin dominance looking, man, absolutely insane on the zoomed out weekly. This is going to be an update on the Bitcoin dominance chart, specifically as it relates to altcoins and what altcoins are doing and why I still think altcoins are less risky than Bitcoin. As I start this video, I want to make a note. I recorded this video May 16th. Altcoins officially less risky than Bitcoin. If you go to the Bitcoin dominance chart, since doing that video, Bitcoin dominance is down around 5% since doing the video. Now, the move for altcoins, even with all of that being said and done, I do not think has even happened yet. And that's what I want to do some analysis on in this video. But I went live because besides talking about this, and then I want to look at XRP charts as well as ADA charts, all in context of the business cycle and the macro and what's going on right now across the board. There are just so many headlines, everybody. I'm sitting here preparing a video, regular video on a Monday morning, and I'm like reading through the headlines, and it's insane to me how bullish the crypto space is right now. And this is happening now at the confluence of the end of QT, a flippening in terms of liquidity and expansion for a business cycle. And we've been years and years and years. This is just an ADA chart zoomed out, but we've been years in QT. So I want to talk about all these things. So if you're out there, hit the subscribe and like on the way in. I really appreciate all of you. And if you're not in our intelligence system, click the link below in the description. We have a free trial going on right now. Get access to our risk models. A very big part of my thesis stems from the data that is back here. So I want to actually just point out on the Bitcoin risk model that we have historically, at this risk level, the price was higher 67% of the time after 3 months, 89% of the time after 1 year. All right, let's do this. I'm going, and if you're a replay viewer, just straight up, I don't know how long this video will be. I would love for it to be like 20 minutes. Probably not going to happen. Hit the timestamps. After I upload, I'll put timestamps. But there are just some things I want to go over. Number one, I posted this yesterday. Let's start with this as kind of, I think, a good foundation to everything that's going on in crypto. It really sums up to why I think it's okay to be bullish. There's a lot of people that are not bullish, and that's fine. But everybody, dear crypto holder, do whatever you want with this. $2,000, I should put dividend to Americans. Government shutdown ends, which, by the way, that's a headline. As of last night, Senate reaches deal to end U.S. government shutdown. That's a headline. QT ends December 1st. We're weeks away. There could potentially be downside, everybody. Let me say that too. Again, a bullish video on the macro. There could still be downside. Even when I did this video, altcoins officially less risky than Bitcoin. Since May, it's been nonstop volatility. The most insane fear and negative sentiment I've seen in the space in recent months since doing this video in May. But again, as a note, Bitcoin dominance has been down since I did that video, and the move has not even happened yet. All right, going back to this post. Fed cuts rates, so rate cuts continue into 2026. Treasury liquidity injections. Liquidity flips business cycle to expansion. We're going to use this chart a lot in this video. Clarity Act passes. Altcoin ETF tsunami begins. So right now, just to give you a sense, like for this video, we're in this news segment. I just want to go over some headlines. It plays directly into a lot of these things. This is just not really a headline, but this was a post from Coinbase Institutional. I just think it's crazy. Coinbase literally doing this. And this was from the other day. You might have seen it a few days ago. But Coinbase literally telling you October's sell-off wasn't the end of the cycle. It may have been the reset it needed. Coinbase, everybody. And I don't know what your view is on the crypto space. Everybody that's watching even this live stream of this video, I know everybody has a different outlook. You might be new to the space. You might have been here for 10 years. And everybody's kind of just like trying to form a thesis, trying to form an opinion. But I will say, when you're out there and you're reading comments that are just like a one-liner or a two-liner, crypto's dead, it's over, the top is in, the 4-year cycle, no data, right? I could be wrong about my bull thesis, but when I'm bringing the bull thesis, I'm bringing the data, and I'm at least explaining to you the reasoning. Coinbase doing the same thing. And that's the thing. It's the OGs that I see that are bringing the data in terms of the bull thesis, and Coinbase here making it very clear. October sell-off wasn't the end of the cycle, and I 100% agree. Could Coinbase Institutional be wrong? Yeah, I guess they could be. But not every, but most pieces of data suggest that October really wasn't the end of the cycle. And as clickbaity as it sounds, I continue to say the bull move hasn't even happened yet. It's almost like we've been in this extended bear market. And what's crazy about the extended bear market to me is if you go to any of the charts, total crypto market cap chart, excluding Bitcoin and stablecoins, does a really good job. I've mentioned this, but QT started back here, quantitative tightening, and it's just about to end. Crazy to me. We fell into this quick bear market, but it's been like this extended bear market. But the thing is, it's been higher highs and higher lows for that time. Not 10, 20, 50x gains on majority of altcoins, but still higher highs, higher lows. A period of accumulation, and I would say redistribution. So that's Coinbase. As you know, Senate reaches deal to end U.S. government shutdown. Millions of Square merchants now have access to Bitcoin payments, according to CEO Jack Dorsey. Some of these headlines are very random. They're out of nowhere, but it's just because I'm on X getting my day started, about to do like my typical, Monday morning 10-minute video. And the headlines are just nonstop. And that's why I'm going live. I'm just going to just cruise through some headlines. Then we'll do some analysis. But genuine long-term supporters deserve more. This is Brian Armstrong over at Coinbase. Whales, insiders, flippers shouldn't be the only winners from token launches. We're launching a token sales platform on Coinbase to give teams a new way to distribute their token to their community and give the community early access to their favorite tokens. And for the first time since 2018, this is crazy. We've not even had Clarity Act pass yet, but look at what's happening. Innovation is coming back to the US. It's already starting. This is about to happen. Coinbase is launching their token launchpad. Retail users in the United States can widely participate. First time since 2018. You remember the ICO days. This is one little piece of all the capital that's going to be unlocked to come into this space. Do you realize it has a lot to do with the business cycle? It has a lot to do with over 7 trillion sitting in money markets as rates are about to come down. It has a lot to do with all these things, but this innovation play, that is, if you're a value investor in the crypto space, if you are here long-term, you realize that right now there is so much innovation that has been on the sidelines, so many ideas on the sidelines that will allow for growth of this space. Now it's being unlocked, and Coinbase hopping right on it. They're getting ready to do this. So that's a headline. President Trump says he will sign crypto market structure legislation to grow the industry more than people ever thought. That's a headline. Analysts expect the Fed, and this will kind of be a segue to our analysis. Analysts expect the Fed to end QT and start expanding its balance sheet again in Q1 2026, the first major shift since tightening began in COVID mid-2022. This is so important, and I really wish, like all the analysis and others have been doing on the business cycle and what's happening with the Fed and what they're doing, I wish people would really pay attention to this. So as we segue into kind of the analysis, let me just make a note, because this kind of plays into some pieces of analysis we're going to do on XRP and ADA. But Senate moves to reopen government, clearing path for crypto action. So this is from Crypto in America, Eleanor's website. The reopening of the government also paves the way for potential surge of activity from the SEC. So now that the government shutdown is coming to an end, watch the SEC open back up. That's all I'm saying. So when it comes to altcoin ETF approvals, watch what happens. This could include ETF approvals, official crypto rulemakings, possibly the innovation exemption touted by SEC Chair Paul Atkins. Additionally, reopening the government means the Senate Banking and Agriculture Committees could, in theory, schedule markups for their respective market structure bills, though neither has yet released the necessary text. Okay. Everybody. It's like, this happens all the time. This happened with the tariff stuff. Like, if you remember the tariff fear in April, especially, and even recently, I mean, this has happened multiple times with tariffs, but like the short-term like fear that goes on with these events that are very clearly not going to just keep on going, right? They're going to end eventually. Nobody ever knows when. These short-term events, they lead to like this crazy fear in the market. Sentiment gets so bad. Oh, it's the beginning of a bear market. And then all of a sudden it ends. And then it allows people, I think, to refocus on the fundamentals of the cycle. But that's what happens. These short-term headlines, the shutdown, not good, not even good for liquidity, right? But the shutdown distracts everybody. It puts them in this like short-term or even mid-term place of fear. They forget to focus on the fundamentals. That's why I think it is so important to focus on the fundamentals. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I've been trying to do. Focus on the data. Don't get emotional. And this is what I was doing even back here in May. So let's start talking about this. I really want to hone in on this. And I'll probably do another shorter video about this. But altcoins officially are less risky than Bitcoin. At the time I posted this in May, it was very unpopular to say this. I know I talk about this a lot. This video on X especially got a lot of engagement, and it was a polarizing post, but it was completely data backed. I was not trying to get all hype and hype people up, but keep this in mind. I posted this in May. Do you realize all the stuff that has happened since May? It's like half a year ago. Bitcoin dominance since I posted that is down. So when I did this video back here in May, so far that was correct. Now, there's a lot of data within our intelligence system. Here's the altcoin market cap. And by the way, this post that I did in May, altcoins officially less risky than Bitcoin, I think as I do this video in November now, is even more true. And I'm going to try and exemplify that for you on the Bitcoin dominance chart. But that video that I did, a lot of the data coming from our risk models in our intelligence system. And since doing that video now, altcoin risk score, just to give you a sense, at this level of 18 now, I don't think it was even as low as 18 when I did that video. The price was higher 62% of the time after 3 months, 90% of the time after 1 year. Now we have risk models for all of these different assets that are back here. Here's an XRP risk model. We're going to look at it in this video. But please note, I've built this system for me to operate through these cycles unemotionally, and for our members that are back there right now. And I'm absolutely telling you right now, if you want data-driven guidance for this cycle, and if we get an altcoin season and a bull cycle, go hit the link below in the description, sign up for a free trial, because I'm literally, we're putting our money where our mouth is. If you don't like it, just don't pay and just cancel before the trial is over. But go see what is back here. I'm telling you, this system, and I so confidently sit here and shill it and sell it. I don't like selling things. If you watch my video for almost 8 years, I've not done this, like coming out with a product all the time or classes and selling them. I like selling this because I know I'm growing a company here, but the data that is here is an unemotional aspect that I need in this market. So with that being said, just know as we start dissecting this whole concept of altcoin season, a lot of the data that drives my thesis comes from our intelligence system. That is these risk models. Hey, when is risk really low? For Bitcoin, for altcoins, whatever. Hey, when is risk really high? As you see, altcoin risk really low. Now, the fact that we are coming into this low risk score at the confluence of this business cycle, everybody, I could be wrong, okay? I emphatically say that to you, and I don't want to be wrong. I don't want crypto to go to zero, but it could. I have to balance and manage my risk that way. You do too. But the reason why I'm so bullish is because of this. Let me explain to you. So if you've been watching my videos lately, we've been talking about this chart, and it is right here. This is the PMI. This is the business cycles. The driver behind this is everything that we've been tracking. What the Fed is doing. This is the Fed balance sheet, just been falling because of the liquidity being sucked out of the system. That's quantitative tightening. This is not good for crypto. Incredibly enough, during this, altcoin and the altcoin market cap chart, as I've noted, has been in actually mostly higher high, higher low. That's within this liquidity drainage landscape. Okay, so that's the Fed monetary policy. QT now coming to an end. So a big driver that QT is a big driver behind this, which is the business cycle chart. What I did recently, like last week, I did a video and I just overlaid the business cycle on something like Cardano. And it explained the business cycle in green explains altcoin price action ridiculously. And wait till you see XRP. If you're an XRP holder, you're going to want to see this. There's a divergence that happened on XRP. It's only a signal of strength, in my opinion, for XRP, but it's very bullish for XRP. But long story short, we've been moving with the business cycle. Look at the price action of ADA, especially with this business cycle chart. It's crazy. So the question is, and really a big foundation to my thesis is, what happens if this business cycle starts going into expansion? Well, what happened last cycle for altcoins, in particular Cardano? Boom, that's what happened. Now let's take that same concept and I want to show you on the Bitcoin dominance chart, because my idea for today's video was just going to be a quick 10-minute video on this, and I'll probably really do another separate video, Bitcoin dominance and the business cycle. But in green is that business cycle. So it looks a little all over the place, but what do we see happening here? Well, check this out. Number one, quantitative tightening ended back here in September 2019. I want to point out to you, because now that we have quantitative tightening getting ready to end in December 1st, weeks away, I just want to point out to you what happened from that moment. And by the way, this is not altcoin season starting right here, right? Altcoin season's like over here, but QT ended September 2019. Bitcoin dominance fell for months. I just want to say that. That's number one. And really, if you look at this chart, I mean, this is almost falling for basically a year. That's number one. In terms of if we're trying to identify, are altcoins less risky than Bitcoin? Well, besides the divergence that we have in our intelligence system, Bitcoin is a 42, which is low risk for Bitcoin. Altcoins are an 18. Besides that divergence, if you just go look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, is my point, QT ending, altcoins dominance rose while Bitcoin dominance fell. And here we are right now, QT is about to come to an end. That's number one. But we overlay the business cycle in green, right? Because there is a lot of bulls, not just in crypto, but in general, that are saying, you know what? We're about to see this expand and it's going to be very good for risk on assets. I'm not the only one here. I just did a post on Ray Dalio, printing into a bubble or something. Stimulus into a bubble is basically something, what his headline was. This expands, right? This is the moment altcoins get even more powerful versus Bitcoin. So now we're like really taking a lot of different pieces of data. But in relation to the green, how it interacts with Bitcoin dominance, I showed it to ChatGPT. Sometimes ChatGPT does a very good job of kind of explaining the illustration. And it made it, because I actually asked, is it bullish or bearish for Bitcoin dominance? What the business cycle is doing on here. So is that bullish or bearish for Bitcoin dominance in this chart? I was curious to see what ChatGPT thought. I know what I thought. Okay, so PMI, the blue line, which actually it's green now because I updated the chart. Historically, that marks the end of contraction and the beginning of a liquidity expansion phase. Okay? And it's saying it appears to have bottomed. And that's what marks the end of contraction. So when we think of contraction, we think of what the Fed has been doing on the balance sheet. This is, boom. This has been the contraction. Liquidity being pulled out. Not good for altcoins. Definitely not good for altcoins versus Bitcoin. Quantitative tightening is expected to end again around 2025. The last QTN 2019 coincided almost perfectly with the start of a massive decline in BTC dominance, kicking off 2020, 2021 alt season. Unless the macro picture collapses again. So let's consider that. PMI turns back down, right? So you go to the PMI chart, here's what we're waiting for. And this is a weekly. It might actually just, even in the short term, just trend down more, sideways. It's not like I'm saying today, tomorrow, this is going to explode. We have to be patient. I don't know what it will look like in terms of time frame. But unless the macro picture collapses again, PMI turns back down, signaling a new contraction. This level typically marks the top of dominance in each cycle. So the top of Bitcoin dominance. This is what the data is saying. And I just want to, again, work in a little bit of a highlight. I could be wrong. I know. We never know. But I'm trying so hard to very simply illustrate all these things for you. And there's so many complicated things going on. Like macroeconomics is not the most simple to digest. I'm trying to make it digestible, not only for you, but for myself as I do analysis. I like things simple. So that's Bitcoin dominance. And this is why I thought Bitcoin dominance was less, altcoins were less risky back here in May when I did that first video. But I feel even more strongly about that. And on the Bitcoin dominance chart, before we start going to look at, I do want to take a glance at Ethereum as well, but Ethereum, Cardano, and XRP. I do want to make this note before we leave this Bitcoin dominance chart. There is kind of, and you know, by the way, quantitative tightening, Bitcoin dominance back here, it was choppy, right? Boom, up, boom. So quantitative tightening going to end? I don't know. Swing high. I don't know what the volatility will look like, but just my thing is lower high Fibonacci from this swing high that we had back here in June. And by the way, so it's a swing high to swing low, that green area. I'm always anticipating these things right now. Bitcoin dominance has been really in a multi-month trend up. We're hitting insane macro moving average areas, the 50-week in blue, 20-week in green. I'm very curious to see. Oftentimes, we get a pullback on any chart to this type of area and we continue falling. Will be very interesting to see if that takes place. If I think we see this green line, that is the business cycle, actually start going into expansion, I think there's a strong case where we do get a resistance at these moving average areas and Bitcoin dominance falls. But the Fibonacci, 64% to 62%. I know from a technical perspective, the main shorter term areas we've been watching is really 61% to like 60%. I think even the daily chart might have had a 200-day moving average at 62%, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. But worst case scenario, if we're going to get a bull cycle for altcoins and Bitcoin dominance isn't done going up, I'm watching this area, lower high Fibonacci. So I'm just putting that out there. But even still, I think at this moment, altcoins are less risky than Bitcoin. I think they were back here. And that's just because of where we are in the macro cycles of things. So let's go look at Ethereum. And then I want to look at Cardano and XRP charts. The thing about Ethereum that I just wanted to mention is, and this was interesting to me when I just saw this preparing for a video, quantitative tightening. And I like using this because, as we've noted, like it or not, the business cycle is incredibly important to liquidity, what is happening with crypto. So when I keep referencing, hey, quantitative tightening, it really is it's important because the last time an event like this happened, QT ending, was back here in 2019. The thing I noted on Ethereum was this. When that happened, there was downside. We didn't immediately enter a bull market. So be careful. Even in the coming months, be careful. But I thought it was interesting how when it ended, we were trending below the 20-month moving average for Ethereum. And right now, we're actually trending above it. Now you mix in the technicals here, right? If I go to, I think a weekly, I just like looking at the weekly better. And we still have to watch this, but it's just crazy how we've had this multi-year structure on Ethereum that we've been using for a big part of our analysis, especially since back here when we broke to the downside. Remember, I was just calling for this busted pattern because I did not think Ethereum was just going to fall like to this crazy target to the downside into a bear market. So the fake out was in play, and we got it, the busted pattern, and then we anticipate the throwback. So I just think it's interesting that we're getting the throwback, a very nice technical move. QT is about to come to an end, and Ethereum is holding so far above the 20-month moving average in green. Will it hold? I don't know. We'll monitor. But when we got QT and a little bit more downside last time, we were below the 20-month moving average. So this could be a signal of strength for Ethereum and maybe even a broader picture of altcoins, but it's something I'm definitely watching. So that's that. And by the way, I can't stress this enough. I mean, the compression of the moving averages on the Ethereum chart is awesome. That's one little illustration of how we've not seen an altcoin bull market yet. Look at just how close these moving averages are together. Look at last cycle in a bull. Look at the separation between the 20 and the 50. That's a bull market picture. And so that move has not happened yet. And we see this whole concept of the altcoin bull move has not happened yet across the board. Again, as I'm talking about all of this bullishness on the macro, please keep in mind, we might have downside. Again, there was some odd downside after quantitative ending last cycle, right? Or I shouldn't say odd, but just unwanted. Downside is always unwanted for bulls, but it was just getting bad back there, right? So just keep that in mind. I don't know what this will look like. The 20-week on Ethereum, just to give you a sense, is at 2,400. And I think it could be probably a good idea also just to be like, swing low to swing high. We also have confluent with the 200 is the Fibonacci, is 618 at 2,600, 786 at 2,100. That green throwback area is a very popular, from my perspective, higher low support area that I'm always watching. So that is, that's Ethereum. But Ethereum chart's looking very good structurally, as well as on the macro when we look at that monthly and the support at the 20-month. I'm just curious to see if we can hold above that $3,000 20-month moving average on Ethereum. Okay, so I wanted to bring up XRP because in this conversation of altcoins versus Bitcoin, XRP is a very big piece of that. Ethereum, a big piece of it. Cardano, a big piece of it. And this isn't because I'm holding XRP. This is just because I think XRP does a very good job of also, similar to Ethereum, giving a sense of what's next for altcoins. What excites me about XRP, especially if you're an XRP holder of any type, similar to the rest of crypto, XRP has followed the business cycle. That green line that you see there, this is what we're waiting for. But if you look at XRP, for instance, and then you look at ADA in terms of kind of just the flow of the business cycle versus ADA charts, just look how ADA has followed it like insane, right? But at this moment back here, if you look at the XRP chart, and XRP obviously gained some dominance, right? So we'll come back to that ADA chart, but look at that explosive move on XRP. Here's what's cool about XRP. We entered a little bit of this like expansion of the business cycle, this green line. And if you remember, it was like November, December 2024, things were getting crazy. XRP made a crazy power move. Now, I think this is after, almost a year of consolidation. That's crazy to me. It's literally about a year of just redistribution, consolidation for crypto. This is what it looks like on XRP. If this chart goes into expansion on the macro, again, I'm not saying tomorrow, but we're getting close, I think. Look at what the price of XRP did with this little expansion. And then we kind of kept consolidating just sideways. Look what XRP did during that move. And this is a good question for any altcoin that you hold, but this is XRP. Absolute power move. You go to our risk model for XRP. Here's what gets exciting for XRP holders. XRP risk model is a 43. Now, this, you have to really take into context the story of XRP and this is how it is for any risk model we have back here. There's fundamentals that the chart might not even be showing, right? And what I mean by that is for XRP at a 43, what this is not even showing is the last bull market. And this is where you have to take things into context. SEC absolutely, you know what happened. The SEC basically ruined XRP's last bull market. Who knows what this chart on XRP would look like otherwise? Point being, last cycle, XRP was like one of the only tokens that didn't have a bull market. It just didn't. It didn't even break the previous 2018 all-time high. Now, that means XRP in such a strong, fundamental position from so many different bullish narratives, it's going to have a bull market. Now, we already saw how this expansion phase, how XRP price reacts to it. XRP has some very nice targets to the upside. If we have a very normal third cycle higher high, I remember I've done analysis on this. I think $8 to $9 is a good area for XRP. First cycle, 1618. If we hit that area, which I think is what it should have done last cycle, it's $5.30. So you look at risk right now. Point being, we are in like a 2017, I think, and not just XRP, but many, but a 2017 like consolidation area, if not even better. But you can see XRP here, September 2017, 44, and it made an insane move if you remember that bull cycle. And I'm not saying that the structure of this cycle will be the same as then. I'm just saying from an upside perspective, XRP has a power move in store. And so this is one way to use our risk models that we have back here, but XRP I think will be I think they're all incredibly useful, especially things like Cardano. Out of nowhere they move. XRP out of nowhere explodes. You want to be positioned in our intelligence system with our members to set alerts for these risk areas, right? Because imagine being in this cycle, all of a sudden you're going from like 51 to within a month, basically 100, and insane gains. So in our intelligence system, you can set your exits price wise. So here's like a $7 price target. Let's save that, right? We want to sell 50,000 XRP. You can do that and it'll show you your gains, and you can add your average purchase price to really start evaluating. But once you save your price-based exit strategy, and this is what is so important. And right now, even if you don't use our system, get back there, get in a trial, see if you like it, start planning exits. But even if you don't use our system, start doing what I'm doing right here. Visualize this case where crypto does what it does, XRP does what it does, and start planning your exits. You want to sell at $7, you want to sell at $5, you want to sell at $8, $9, what do you want to do? In our system, we just activated SMS alerts so you can be alerted via text when you hit these levels. But this system becomes powerful when you start integrating risk. So you can be like, man, alert me when we're getting into this like 94 area, like December 2017, right? And so here's a 60 risk that's set, but you can be like, give me a 90 alert, right? I want to sell some of my XRP there. If not, if you have XRP, you might be like, I'm selling 60% of my XRP or 50% of my XRP. Once it gets to that high risk, I don't know if you've lived through just an insane bullish move for cryptos, but your altcoin is flying and you're just like, do I sell now? Do I not? This is what our risk models are for, to take that emotion and that guessing out of it. And you can really start studying, well, what did this do last time? We're at 80 right now. What was it doing at 80 last time? Would that have been a good time to sell? Boom. And you start making your decisions based off of that. And then you just save, you can name your strategy, and then you can save it and start, planning your other exits. But XRP, everybody, I don't know. I'm not saying this move is going to happen tomorrow. I'm just saying after a year of consolidation, if this green line, the business cycle line, starts expanding and risk on assets like crypto start kind of making a move, I think XRP is gonna do something XRP-ish, right? And we've seen what XRP does over the years. And a similar story goes for ADA. And I just want to make a note of this because XRP, I saw actually a headline. I thought I had it up. Let me see. I guess I don't have it up, or here it is. I think this is it. Spot XRP ETF from Canary goes live November 13th. Institutions are waking up. So again, all the narratives for XRP. Cardano has very similar narratives. If you look at Polymarket, there's like, the odds of an ETF approval have gone down because of the shutdown. It's again, short-term noise influencing the way people are thinking about the cycle as a whole, as a macro. I think distracting people. But ADA is the same thing, right? Just the other day, this was November 7th. Here's Grayscale out here in New York City, just marketing Cardano ETF. Flexible, scalable, now solid. So keep that in mind as we look at the ADA charts. But again, and I have to just do a straight up standalone Cardano video, very similar to XRP. What happens if we get a true expansion of the business cycle for Cardano? QT about to end. Look at Cardano. What's so interesting to me is how in line Cardano is with this business cycle chart. It's crazy to see that. And I've been opening other altcoin charts and I've not seen one so in line with it, which is weird. But if you're an ADA holder out there, I don't think, and you know, I'm sorry it took me so long as an analyst to even start really spotting this and bringing this to your attention. But like you, especially over the last year, I've been just doing so much learning into the business cycles and liquidity, what the Fed is doing. And I think I disregarded how much it plays into crypto, especially the risk on side of it. And that is, you know, on the macro, the more risky plays besides Bitcoin, altcoins. Look at it. Just look at that. And I guess it could diverge and not play out, probably especially because now I'm talking about it. But that's insane confluence across these charts. So if there's any chart that you want, not even just for Cardano, but especially for Cardano, that you want to just give me an explanation. What's going on with Cardano? Why is it so frustrating? Why we get this choppiness and all over the place? Everybody, look at the green line, the business cycle line. That is just, it boggles my mind. Like, it doesn't boggle my mind, but it boggles my mind. So in relation to, let me get rid of that for now because I do just want to zoom in on the Cardano chart. Just crazy. And same thing, XRP, around a year of consolidation. Cardano, around a year of consolidation. The structure looks a little bit different, but the story is really the same for most altcoins. On the shorter term, and this is where the short-term caution comes into play, be careful, right? I don't know what the bottoming out structure will look like, but it's the same thing every time. We want to see key moving averages be broken. We failed here at the 20. Right now, the 20-week or the 20-day moving average for Cardano is around 60 to 61 cents. If you're watching Cardano charts, if you insist on the short term and you're just like, man, when's this going to flip? The very first area is 60 to 61 cents. Can Cardano even start closing daily candles above that? Even if it's just like it gets above and it's sideways. That's the first step. And then we need to meet that 200, the 50. This is up in that range of like 70 to 75 cents. That's that area to start flipping. But it's the same story. If you go through this cycle, flipping back above those moving averages. If you go to last cycle, it's the same story every single time. You can even go back to when quantitative tightening was ending last cycle. Look at it. Cardano just failing to break above those moving average. It kept falling, right? So we could be in a scenario where even in the coming like months, Cardano can just still trickle along these moving averages and fail to break out. Be careful for that. Be ready for that with every altcoin. But let's watch though on the short term. Can Cardano flip to the upside? That's what I'll be watching for. So, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody, as you can see, when I start zooming in, it's kind of like, yeah, we can track that absolutely. And it's useful to me too, because I'm always checking charts, but it's the macro that matters. It's the macro that counts. And right now, altcoin market cap chart, as it relates to the business cycle, is huge. Bitcoin dominance chart, as it relates to the business cycle, is huge. And so here I am, the same way I started the video, right here, I did that video. Altcoins officially less risky than Bitcoin. And I'm saying the same thing right now. We're down around 5% since I did the video. We might have a little bit of a continued pump for Bitcoin dominance, right? Monitor it. But I continue to think that Bitcoin dominance is going to continue trending down. Ever since I did this video, we had a little pump and then boom. I think we're going to get maybe some type of lower high. Let's see. I mean, we really have to monitor to see what happens with this business cycle indicator. I don't know when, but it's looking like it's going to start going into expansion, and that would be bearish for Bitcoin dominance chart. Patience, planning, manage your risk. That's what I'm doing, everybody. Weird live stream. I just was like, I just felt like going live and talking about these things kind of laid back, nonchalant, just because I'm sitting here watching all of these things play out, and I'm just too many tabs open to do a regular video. So appreciate you hanging with me. If you're a replay viewer, I'll put the timestamps below. If you're out there right now, if you are, a macro-minded investor, hit the link below, get into our intelligence system. And by the way, once you have your strategy set, like for XRP, for instance, you have a 90, an 80, a 70 risk score. You have your speculative price strategies. You get back there, you can go into our Zero AI, which is basically our autonomous AI. It's trained on our risk models. It's trained on those strategies that you set up. You can just start talking like you would talk with ChatGPT, but you can talk with Zero, trained on your strategies you set up. Ask it questions. What does Zero think about your strategy? You know, start brainstorming with Zero back there. And once you do all that, you can get back into our dashboard. You can set all of your risk models how you want them, and you can add different widgets. News should be coming soon. And then, you know, just have some fun with it, everybody. If you don't like it, cancel the trial. But I'm excited to continue offering that trial for now while risk. I mean, just look at these risk scores. I'm just glancing at this, and it's just like Clarity Act, man, pro crypto legislation, QT ending. No guarantees, but as far as risk goes, you know, I'm at the very least grateful for the opportunity. So these are my thoughts today, everybody. I appreciate you. If you're out there right now in the live stream, smash that like button. Those YouTube algorithms, man, they want the likes. So I appreciate you. We got like 3,000 people, and I hope you're doing well out there. I really do. I will see you all in the next video. God bless.